Now, Paul Pukis is a speaker and co-author with Amy Drool of Protect Yourself, and he was also a top 10 finalist in the 2010 What's Working contest. Welcome back, Paul.
Hello. Glad to be back. First show of the year.
Happy New Year.
2012. Bring it, baby.
What'd you do? Anything fun?
Went down to my folks' house.
Yeah.
Stayed the night down there where Grandpa and Grandma got to play with the little ones. They always enjoy that. And because the baby, the 4-month-old, sleeps in a different room at that point than I do, I got some of the best sleep of my my life in the last 4 months.
Finally.
And it was great.
All right, so you're rested, you're ready to
I'm
go.
ready to rock and roll.
Okay, so, New Year's resolutions, there's the big grandeur ideas, but a lot of people might just think, gosh, I'd like to save a few bucks, start a retirement plan. And insurance is really one of those places where, as you start looking at car, I know ours just renewed, but that's really a place that people can kind of do that. Yeah,
it's interesting you bring that up because we've actually got quite a few phone calls this morning and on Monday for people like, hey, I've been putting this off over the last couple months. It's on my list of things to do, so I'm taking care of that right now. I wanted to talk to you about my current insurance and protection overall. So let's start talking. And those were great phone calls to get.
What do people ask, or what should people be asking? I mean, as you start the beginning of a year, you call yourself or whoever's doing your insurance. What are those beginning of the year questions that need to be asked so they know what to ask their insurance professional who isn't you that maybe isn't asking them?
Right. Well, a lot of times with insurance, you have your annual policy. So you should be asking those questions more along the time when your policy renews, not necessarily just at the beginning of the year. It just happens that a lot of people take care of stuff at the beginning of the year, which is why you have your renewal at the beginning of the year. So the questions they should be asking their agent, if they have an agent, or your 800 number, if that's who you choose to get your insurance through, is an 800 number. What
or a little green
or the lizard that we like to beat
lizard.
with our shoes. You need to ask your agent, or at least have the conversation. Maybe not ask them specific questions, but engage in a conversation that makes them ask you some questions about what perhaps has changed in your life that we can do to adjust your current premiums. And what we found
it's kind of a fancy way of saying, what can I do to save some money?
That's a nice way to put it. Is there things that we can do to save some money? Take a look at some different coverage options. You always want to take a look at reducing coverage last. If that's your goal, is to save money, is reducing coverage last. I've never, and I've said this on the show before, I've never had a client complain that they were paying too much money when a claim happened. Never, when it was covered. So that's never when it comes up.
What about things like, people have been driving for another year. Maybe they haven't gotten an accident. They haven't gotten a ticket. So that next year is maybe burned off. Is that something, is that something they can talk to you about also? Yeah.
You're going to find that insurance policies basically lock you into a rate for a certain amount of time, 6 months or a year. Your policies tend to be more beneficial in some situations, and in some cases not. If you've got a ticket or an accident that falls off at that 5-month mark, well, it's not good to lock you in for another 7 months paying a higher premium because that accident still stays on there. Maybe then it makes sense to put you on a 6-month policy. So that's the type of stuff that if you work with an independent broker and they have multiple companies to choose from and multiple different policy options, you can select the best one that fits whatever your driving record might be for that current situation.
So, it's kind of, you're thinking along the lines, and I just want to paraphrase here, thinking kind of along the lines of, if you have your driving record is what it is, and you're painting about the amount of time that has passed since your accident, since your most recent ticket, you now have the ability to kind of go shop, and whether it's, at the beginning of the year, or some point in time during the year, whenever that 6-month or 12-month policy is up.
Yeah. Excuse me. You can, as the client, you have the ability to change your policy, cancel your policy at any time. It's the insurance company that has to stand by the policy length. So if they say, we're going to give you a 6-month policy or a 12-month policy, as long as you as the client make your payments, which is what the insurance company cares about, then they have to keep you in that policy. But you as the client, as the insured is the name in the is the term in the industry. You have the right to break your policy whenever you want. It's yours. It's what they call a unilateral agreement. So the company can't do anything as long as you make your payments, but you can change, you can shop, you can go wherever you want, whenever you want.
Well, I think shopping is an interesting point. We get this in the mortgage business all the time. Mm-hmm. How do we get the same or lower rates than what a bank is willing to give you? And how, or for you, calling, say, Travelers Insurance mm-hmm. versus calling you, how do those rates break down, and how does that work?
Well, you're going to get the same rates with most companies through going the direct channel or not. Progressive is the only company out there that actually you'll get a little bit of a break if you go directly to them. But and of course I need to say this, you're not getting whatever that break in premium is not worth having someone at the end of an 800 number and not an agent to guide you through the correct steps, the right coverage you should have. Besides them, everyone else is
how do these companies do that, though? I mean, how is it? I know in the mortgage business, we buy wholesale money. We'll buy mm-hmm. blocks of money from a bank. Then we sell it at essentially a small markup, which is the same the bank would sell it for. Okay. How does that work in insurance?
As far as how do you
sell them for the same prices as going direct? Do they give you a discount for going through you, so essentially it ends up being the same?
No, it's just the company, just due to regulations, they have to pick a certain premium and have that filed with the insurance commissioner of Washington State or whatever state your insurance is through. And then, because that rate is filed, that is the filed rate that the company needs to keep, no matter if it's directly through them or with an agent.
And so, and basically, you guys end up, getting paid or making money because now you are... Although you are the 800 number consultant, you pay for your brick and your mortar and your right. shop and your people. So it's kind of
how we make money is commission off of the total premium. So if your premium is $100 a month, then depending on what commission the company pays us mm-hmm. as the agency, we might make anywhere between 8 to 15% commission on a specific policy.
So I guess my main point is if you're shopping, it doesn't matter if you go call every single insurance company that you've seen on TV in the last week, which would be a lot, mm-hmm. yes, or call you.
Right. As an independent broker, our job is to shop for our clients to make sure that we assess everything and give them the best value that's available in the market. That's what we do.
Paul, we have a few minutes left before we have to go to break. Again, we're here with Paul Pukis with Mosaic Insurance Alliance. Paul, we've talked a lot about, as you've been on this show, about protecting yourself. You wrote a book called Protect Yourself. What are some things people need to be thinking about in the beginning of the year to not only maybe save money on their insurance, as we talked about, but also just to be safer in general?
Well, I hope that everyone made it through the New Year's without any issues on the road. We still have some storms coming. I had a client call in today with some water damage to a house. Actually, it was a secondary home out in the San Juan's. So they went out there over the break and found that there was some damage. The best thing you can do is just have good maintenance on your property, on your cars. You'll probably hear the same thing, from your folks to take care of the stuff that you own and not let it go. And that's about the best thing you can do from an insurance perspective is that water hose that goes, at the back of your fridge or your washing machine, or your dishwasher. Those are typically the things that cause the most damage in a home, or the most common claim we see. And they're not huge claims, but man, are they an inconvenience. And for $15 or $20, you can get a new hose and replace it and not worry about that plastic getting old and brittle and cracking. And when you come home from a long weekend, you now have $10,000 worth of hardwood floor damage.
Well, Paul, I'm calling you. You can come over and show me where that hose is behind my refrigerator so we can get that fixed. So really it ends up being this seasonal, it's maintenance. It's mm-hmm. trimming your trees. I mean, I would imagine as these storms come in.
Yeah, the storms come in. A tree fell. Fantastic. I got a phone call on Christmas Day from a client who said this is the best service and best claims experience I've ever had. I can't believe you answered my phone on your cell phone on Christmas Day. And a tree had fallen. And I thought, the first thing I think is this is the worst ever. I'm calling this guy up. I know his house, a gorgeous home in Lake Stevens, and I was thinking that his house was now shaped like a U. Well, luckily enough, it actually fell on his car. I say this luckily enough. It's still a bad thing. But it fell on his car, and the new cars today are so strong with the way they're constructed, it actually caused the tree to snap, and it did very little damage to the car. And I saw the picture of it, and I was like, that's amazing. It hit perfectly on there, right at the welds, right where everything is the strongest it can be. But we took care of it. So that's what's great. It's great to be able to get feedback like that says, I can't believe you talked to me on Christmas. I was so concerned. It's like, yeah, I mean, I'm with the in-laws or you on the phone. I mean, that's an easy choice.
Right?
I'm calling you back.
Well, Paul, thanks so much for joining us again. That's Paul Pukis with Mosaic Insurance Alliance. When we come back, a lot of people make New Year's resolutions to possibly move, buy a house. And if you're thinking about buying a house, we have something you can't miss. My name is Ben Brashen. That was Paul Pukis. You're listening to Brashen Online.